Good morning, my name's Tom, and this is the weekly political video. Let's see, we have a new presidential race this week. As you already know, and the reason I haven't covered this throughout the week is I try to keep the negativity of politics off my channel and only release it on like Fridays. But, obviously, after the attempt on Trump's life, that week was different. But yeah, Harris is now the Democratic Party's nominee. You already knew this, and that's not news. What is happening around it, I think, is worth paying attention to. Let's see. The voter registration turnout at vote.org exploded. And, more voter registration happened than when Taylor Swift told people, it's important to get registered to vote. This was a bigger influence than Taylor Swift. And the vast majority of them are 18 to 34. I would suggest we're about to find out if anybody under 70 is just a quote on a Facebook meme, or if that's a coalition. The Republican Party was unprepared for this, and they didn't really have talking points prepared, at least not well distributed. And so they fell back on narratives that a lot of their base would play well with their base. And Republican strategists had to have a sit down with Republican congressmen and tell them, you need to stop calling her the DEI candidate. You're putting too much emphasis on the R. And that's not going to play well with a lot of voters. It got to the point where the strategists for the Republican Party, and again, this is the inner party, not the baseline voters, actually had to provide cheat sheets. Like, if you have to talk about something and that's all you can think of, here's a cheat sheet of other stuff you can say instead. One individual had decided to attack her for not having children because that's women's assigned role in life, I suppose. And also made an attack on cat ladies. That's going to work out really well for him, I'm sure. Speaking of which, J.D. Vance, Trump's running mate, not polling well, which is interesting. It seems he's more of a prima donna than a country boy. Basically, Trump selected a poser for his running mate, and everybody knows he's a poser. His personality is just, I don't know, not great. I think people voted for him to be in office when they did last time around simply because there was an R at the end of his name. Not because he's anything worth voting for. And, it's at the point where the GOP is scratching their head saying, well, how do we fix this? As opposed to, saying, well, this is ridiculous and, he's doing great. We're really motivated. Instead, they're thinking, well, how do we fix this? So that's worthy of consideration. Project 2025 has, hey, we're back to Taylor Swift comparisons, gotten more Google searches than Taylor Swift does. That's the standard we go by now. in ratio to Taylor Swift, because Americans will use anything but the metric system. So, yeah, it's not very popular. Even among Republicans, it's not very popular. Polling shows that the only major demographic that has a favorable viewing of it is specifically MAGA Republicans. And even there, it's only by 1 or 2 percentage points, with only about 40% of them actually providing a concrete answer. A lot of Republicans that I've heard from insist that it's a hoax, or it doesn't matter because they're not Republicans, they're not what we're voting for, and they don't write legislation. It's worth noting that organizations like this write legislation all the time. They write it for congressmen and for senators and for presidents, and then they give it to the ones that they've been funding their campaigns. They pass the bill, they send it on to the president signs it. That's how lobbyists work. That's what they get paid for. All right. Let's see. New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez is finally resigning. Yes, convicted felon Bob Menendez is resigning. He has been convicted by a jury. The evidence was there. The evidence was legitimate. And, yeah. He is resigning. I haven't heard news whether or not he's pulling out of his independent candidacy, but I would assume that goes with it. Which means he'll stop trying to pirate votes away from the Democratic candidate out of pettiness, because the Democratic Party did not support him when they found out he was hiding enormous stacks of cash and literal gold bars that he was collecting from people who wanted certain laws passed. Now, the final part of this, the attempted assassin who tried to take out Trump. Well, I said he probably had more in common with the guy who took a shot at Reagan than John Wilkes Booth. John Hinckley Jr., that's his name, because I suspected that the motive was entirely crazy and not political. We still don't know the exact motive, but everything's pointing to crazy. However, this did not appear to be an attempt to impress Jodie Foster. I suspect he's got more in common actually with Klebold and Harris, who attacked Columbine High School. Everything about this seems like this was his effort to unalive himself. And he wanted to do it in the most attention-grabbing way possible, and to hurt as many people as he could doing it. He succeeded. He did an untold amount of damage. It's hard to measure. It's hard to quantify. Literally, it's an untold amount of damage. He created a lot of turmoil. There's conspiracy theories out the yin-yang now. There is an apparent breakdown in both the Secret Service and its communications and directives when being aided by local law enforcement. The Secret Service director has resigned. Which, well, let's face it, if I were still enlisted, that would be what I would expect to happen to my commanding officer with a breakdown like that. Because loss of faith in their ability to lead. That was an incident that never should have happened. Secret Service apparently relied too much on local law enforcement, which, remember, they have gone all the way to the Supreme Court and successfully argued that they're not responsible for protecting an individual's safety. And the Supreme Court agrees. And, yeah. The communication, like, somehow, I guess there wasn't a direct line to say, hey, get the former president out of here now? Because communication did go out saying there's a suspicious man climbing onto a roof, has a weapon. There was just a whole series of breakdowns which were wildly unacceptable. And remember, in any sort of fatal incident or near fatal incident, it's always the result of multiple failures. That's what we had here, and that is organizational. And so there's a lot of fear over this in government officials, let alone, people's fear of conspiracies. So yeah, this is a lot of damage. Well, like, share, subscribe. Have a good day.